We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We're gonna make it look fly with some DIY. Uh-oh, thrift diving.
Hey, what's up? It's Serena Pia from thriftiving.com, which is a do-it-yourself blog, YouTube channel, and podcast that helps you decorate, improve, and maintain your home with paint, power tools, and thrift stores without sacrificing your budget, the environment, or style. Welcome to episode 103 of the Thrift Diving Podcast. And I have to tell you, I am really excited about this episode because for the last month, actually longer than a month, I have completely been making over my money. If you remember, about a month ago, a little bit more than a month, I told you that we were doing the DIY, 30-day DIY money makeover challenge. And it was going to be myself, my readers, Krista Edwards from Ready to Roth. If you remember, I had her on a previous episode and we decided, guess what? We're going to do a challenge, a money challenge, and we're going to invite you to participate. And this has been the most amazing experience because, you know, a lot of times we spend money and we don't really think about what we spend our money on. Now, that may be true for some people. Some people may have very little money and so they're aware of where every single penny goes. But I think if you are somebody who's listening to this, you have a pretty decent income. You're not completely struggling. You've got your mortgage paid, your rent paid, you've got food on the table, and you're pretty comfortable. You probably have some waste in your spending. And so Krista and I had come together and said, you know what? We want to do this challenge and help people completely make over their budgets. And we're going to have it be so that they can understand what's coming in, what's going out, what's important to them, and how can they do this themselves and feel comfortable and empowered to tackle their own money and create a budget and a spending plan. So I want to talk to you today about kind of what I learned, the lessons learned for me and some things that came out of this challenge. We're not completely done yet. We just finished week 5 and we decided that we were going to do a week 6 because, well, I'll tell you why in just a moment. But part of that was we just wanted to celebrate and, you know, give ourselves pats on the back for a job well done. This was not an easy challenge by any means. I invested a ton of time in this, not just putting it together for everybody to succeed and have a really good challenge, but for my own personal gain of being able to look at my own money to see where was I spending, where was I wasting, what was I doing well, what was I doing really terrible at. And I came up with a list of things that were surprising to me. And as you're listening to this, I want you to think about how these things may or may not be true for you. So you may not have done the challenge, and that's okay if you haven't. We are going to probably be rolling this out to more people. We had 16 people sign up, and there were 19 people on the wait list. So if this is something that you would like to do, go to thriftiving.com/money. You can actually sign up for the wait list. And you can do your own DIY money makeover challenge. We're probably going to be rolling this out to more people and do another session very, very soon. And you don't want to miss this. It's actually a really, really good thing. If you are someone who feels like, you know what, I could actually be doing better at managing my money, then this challenge is for you. So let me just take a step back and tell you how this challenge came to be. Now, if you remember, several months ago, I had Krista come onto the Thrift Diving podcast, and we were talking about her experience of living outdoors for 5 months. She traveled for 5 months with a group of friends. And when she came home, it had a different significance to her, right? You know, once you've lived outdoors with no roof and then suddenly you move indoors, you have a whole different belief about what home means to you. And so I interviewed her for the podcast. And during that time, we started talking about her love of savings and investing. And so we decided, you know what, let's think about doing a money makeover challenge in January. And, you know, sometimes it's one of those things where someone says, hey, let's get together sometime. And you're like, yeah, sure. But you don't ever really plan for it. You almost kind of know that, okay, it sounds great in theory, but when is it ever really going to happen? Like, whatever. So I had kind of forgotten about it. And Krista had hit me up sometime in December and said, hey, I know January's coming. We talked about this challenge. Do you still want to do this? because she was calling me out on it, I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it. And here at Thrift Diving, you and I, we've done challenges before. Usually the challenges are around home improvement or room makeovers. It's something that we usually tackle in 30 days. Sometimes we do like decluttering challenges. And so I love coming together with a group of people and using that synergy, that the fact that we're all working on the same common goal to motivate me, to keep me going when it's easy by yourself to just slack off. So I thought, you know what? Let's do this, Krista. Let's do this Money Makeover Challenge. And so we put it out there, $20, sign up. We're going to donate half of it to Habitat for Humanity. So it's not like we're making a lot of money on this, but this is going to be a good thing for us to do and for you to do. And we put it out there, and here's the funny thing. We didn't think that we were actually going to get anybody to sign up. And I know it was days before the actual challenge was to start, or when we were going to launch it. And there was maybe one person that signed up. And I thought, okay, Krista, if we don't get anyone to sign up for this, maybe we'll offer it for free. Maybe we'll just scrap the whole idea. Surprisingly, I put it out there to my email list, and we got a lot of people signed up. And we decided, we want to kind of keep this small because we want people to feel comfortable sharing in the group. We're going to be doing this live every week on Zoom. We don't want people to feel like, they have to be afraid of raising their hand and asking a question. Let's just keep it small and intimate. So we only had 16 people that we allowed in, and then we did a wait list. So there's 19 people on the wait list. And we set up this structure of, let's do 5 weeks. The first week, we're just going to make that be a meet and greet. We're going to have everybody come together. And there weren't that many people. There were, I would say, 7 to 9 people that actually showed up. Some of the people that participated, they were actually overseas, or maybe they lived in a different time zone and meeting every week live at 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights. It just wasn't feasible for them. So they would listen to the replay. So consistently, we had about seven people show up. And that was a pretty good group of people that consistently showed up and shared. And it just felt like a great community to support each other. So the way that we had set this up is we had a meet and greet. And then the next week, we had homework. We actually had to dig into all of our expenses. Well, you didn't have to do the full 2022 year, but you could take a month, like September, right? You didn't want to take a month during the holidays because at that time we were all spending more money on food, gifts, and it just wasn't an average month. So let's go back to September, maybe August, and choose a month where it's kind of normal, average expenditures. And let's dig into those numbers and see, where are we spending our money? Well, because most of my expenses were on my credit card, I went to my credit card and I pulled up a whole year's worth of expenditures. And let me tell you, those calculations were not pretty. They were not pretty at all. When I looked at the fact that I'd spent $500 at freaking Burger King, I thought, what in the world? And that's just one location. That doesn't include the $300 that I had spent at Chipotle and the other $500 that I spent at a vegan restaurant. I mean, those are just 3 of the places that we would eat. That doesn't include every place. And so I was getting really granular trying to figure out, okay, how much money was I spending at the organic store? How much was I spending at Costco? How much was I spending at Safeway? And looking at the total amount spent on, say, food amongst all those places, but breaking it down to location, that's how invested I was in this challenge. And seeing those numbers was surprising. Now, that $500 that I spent at Burger King, that was not even for the entire year, because my son and I, after his basketball practices in the evenings, we would be driving home some nights and it's like, yeah, it's kind of late to go home and get some food. Why don't we just stop at Burger King? And that was not even for the entire year. That was for like maybe the last half of the year. So when I looked at how much money I'd spent on eating out and just buying things that I didn't have to buy, it was astounding. I couldn't believe it. And so we all dug into our finances to see where the money had gone, what was surprising about where we were spending money. And that was week 1. We really had to get honest about where those funds were going. And, some of the things that were really interesting that I'd heard back from other people were things like, I didn't know that I was spending so much in debt payments, right? Like calculating how much of your money is going towards debt, credit cards, car loans, personal loans, those kinds of debts. Other people said, I didn't know that I spent so much at the thrift store until I started tracking it in this challenge. And someone else said, I didn't know that I spent so much on fabric. They had a fabric, well, I think they had like a sewing business. They do some sewing on the side. And they realized that they were spending a lot more in fabric than they were actually making in the business. So, these are the kind of things that we were starting to uncover. And I'll be honest with you, like I felt shame. I did. I felt shame that I had spent so much money. I squandered. That's the word I'm looking for. I'd squandered so much money on things that at the time it seemed like it was important, but it really wasn't important. And, I think the things that I was spending money on, going out to eat with the kids, going to get ice cream. We spent like $500 on Rita's ice cream. And that seems like a lot. And when I told my husband, he said, I kept telling you, go to the grocery store and just buy a half gallon of ice cream. But when I thought about the trips to Rita's, it was really about spending time with the kids, being in the car with them on a nice summer day, going to get ice cream and having that family time. And I wasn't thinking about how much money I was spending. I was just thinking, oh, we're spending time together. We're going out getting ice cream. So it really, for week one, digging into these finances, it really made me look at how I was spending money, what I was spending money on, and was this really a good use of my money? And I think that if this is something that you want to do, I think that you should do this exact activity. Go back to one of your months that is sort of a typical month, right? Don't go back to December when you're spending all this money on, holidays. Go back to October, go back to September, and really look at where all your money went. And even though that's just 1 month, I mean, you can go back and look at 3 months. You can do like a July, August, September, and get an average of how much money you had been spending, because it's like when you're trying to lose weight. There's only so much you're going to be able to lose unless you look at how much you're eating, right? You have to decrease those calories. You have to move more. You have to spend less. Spend less in terms of money, but you have to eat less in order for you to lose weight. And if you're not tracking this, you have no idea. You really have no idea. So that's what we did for week one. And I was telling you that I had felt shame. When I looked at how much money I'd spent, even on credit cards, right? I felt this sense of shame because I had not been mindful of where my money was going. I was telling myself this story. You know what? I'm a pretty thrifty person. I don't spend $500 on purses. I don't go out and buy a chair for $1,000 or $500. That's not who I am. But what I was not telling myself is I'm a person that goes out and spends $500 at Burger King. I was neglecting all of the bad habits and praising myself on all the habits that I didn't have, but I was still having bad habits. And when I looked at where that money could have gone, that sense of shame, that sense of embarrassment of I was really asleep at the wheel of my finances for the last year, it really made me feel really bad. And so this challenge came along at the right time. I was ready, along with you and everybody that participated, to dig into those finances and figure out a game plan of where can I cut, what are the things that I really don't need, and how can I use that money to better serve me for the future and create a more stable environment. Not that we don't have a stable financial, account or, financial life. We do, but how can I improve that even more, right? There's always room for improvement, and I could be doing better. So anyway, that's what we did for week one. We started thinking about spending rules. What are some guidelines that we have about spending? And then for week two, we actually started digging into, okay, now that we know where all of our money is going, let's talk about what's bringing us joy. Because when you're creating this budget, it shouldn't be about getting rid of everything, right? Like if you enjoy going out with friends and family and going to restaurants, then don't tell yourself that you have to give that up. If you enjoy going to thrift stores and spending money on, discounted furniture, or, going to Home Goods and finding things for your home, you don't necessarily have to give that up. If that's giving you joy, then leave that in your life and cut out all the other things that don't matter as much. Or maybe instead of spending $500 at Burger King, if you really enjoy doing that with your child, maybe cut it back to $300, but give yourself a budget so that you can enjoy it, but enjoy it within reason. So for week 2, that's what we did. We looked at our net worth. We found out what our why is. The why is a really big thing that you have to figure out when you start looking at your finances. I think anything that you're tackling that's going to be a challenge, you have to consider what your why is. So for me, my why started out as, I want to get an investment property, right? So if I can cut some of these expenses and some of the waste, then maybe I can save up more money to go get an investment property. I want to get a fixer-upper. I would love to use this fixer-upper for content for thrift diving. And when it's quote unquote done, I'd love to rent it out in the future, have this be a source of income, right? Passive income coming in every month. That's what I told myself my why was. But later, as the challenge went on, I realized that really wasn't my why. Like, yes, that's important to me. I do want to get a property. Eventually, I will get one. But really, my why is that I want financial freedom. I want choice. That's what freedom is. Freedom is choice. Freedom is being able to choose, okay, how do I spend my day? When I am retired, I'm 45 now, but when I'm retired I don't think I'll ever retire. I love what I do too much. And even if I'm retired, I'm still going to be involved in every little thing that brings me joy. So, I don't really even look at it as retirement. But when I don't have to work for money, let's put it that way. When I retire, I want choice. I want to be able to wake up and say, do I want to go do A today? Or do I want to go do B? And do I have enough money to fund those things? And if I do, then that's great. That's what I want. I want the choice to decide if I get to do thing A or thing B. Or you know what? Maybe I'll do activity C over here. Or maybe I don't do anything today. Maybe I just lay in bed and watch Netflix. That is the choice that I want. I want my retirement, my life in the future. And even now, honestly, I want to be able to dictate what it is that I do with my time so that whatever I decide, I know that I'm going to have the funds to pay for that thing, or I don't have to worry about money so that I can just focus on, do I want to do A or B or C, or maybe even D, whatever it is. That is what my why is. And I realized that as things went on in the challenge. So when Krista had asked during week 1, hey, everybody, what's your why? We were all saying what our why was. And at the end of the challenge, she said, I want to know what everybody's why is. Has it changed for you? And that was such a poignant question. And I realized, wow, it's not about the investment property. It is about me waking up and being able to decide, what is it that I focus my time on today? Do I want to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity today? Or do I want to go and sit and watch Netflix and knit all day? Or do I want to sew? What is it that I want to do? And I feel like all the money that I spent in 2022 probably pulled me further away from being able to do that. Now, financially, we're okay, but could I have made a better choice? Could we have been a little further along if I hadn't made some of those poor choices with what I spend my money on in 2022? So for you, as you go along in your day, as you're listening to this, as you move on in your month, in your year, your life, I want you to start thinking, what is my why? Why is it important for me to be financially free or financially in charge of my money or getting my finances cleared up? Why is that important to me? What is your why? Do you know what your why is? Sometimes we don't know what it is. Like what happened to me, we think it's one thing, but as we start uncovering and focusing on our money, we realize, whoa, wait a minute, that's actually change. That's not my why. My why is this. And usually it pertains to family or love or friendships, not so much the physical things, the tangible things, right? Like the investment property. It's more of the intangible things. the freedom to do with what you want with your time. And knowing that you have that security there, that safety net of your finances, being able to fuel your passions and your hobbies. And, maybe you want to spend time decorating furniture, painting furniture, stripping furniture, learning how to use power tools. Maybe you want to do all these things. But if you're worried about money, guess what? You're not going to focus on those things. And the same can be true for health. I'll go ahead and put it out there. If you're worried about your health, you may not be able to focus on doing all those other fun things that you hope to do. So that's why your health is so important. That's why your money is so important, because it provides you the ability to then focus on all the other things that you want to do with your life. So that's what I realized my why was: the freedom to choose how I spend my time, with who and with what to spend my time. So anyway, for week 2, we really kind of delved into that, your net worth and your why. And for week 3, we actually created a spending plan. And this part was so exciting because it had been leading up to this, right? We figured out where the money was going in week 1. Week 2, we set up spending alerts. We changed our due dates. I mean, we did all kinds of things to kind of put into perspective how we were going to move forward with like being able to better manage our money. So week 3, that's what we did. We actually created a spending plan, and we found accountability buddies. So who's that person that you can check in with and say, hey, this is how my spending's going. And we kind of found that. We found that in the challenge, which was really great, which is why I loved every Tuesday at 7. I was like, yes, it's time to meet. But we created that spending plan, and that felt a little uncomfortable for me at first. It really did, because for me, having a spending plan meant structure. And I'll tell you, I have this belief in my mind that when you start putting these parameters in place of, okay, you're allowed to spend this, you can't spend that. To me, it makes me feel kind of like when I was a kid, right? You only had a certain amount and you have to be really strict because there's not enough. And so creating a spending plan for me felt like, okay, this means there's not enough. Whereas if I can just freely spend and it's being replenished, the money's going into my account and it's just going right out, then that tells me, or that's what I think I was telling myself, wow, I'm making money. Like I can just spend whatever I want and I'm making money and I'm not feeling the pain of that. But the minute I set up this spending plan, that means I've got guardrails in place to prevent me from really spending. That means I have to give things up. Oh my gosh, this makes me feel like when I was a kid and I didn't have any money. I don't want to feel deprived. And I think one thing that I realized in this challenge is that coming up with a spending plan or a budget, you don't even have to use the word budget, but coming up with a spending plan doesn't have to make you feel restricted. You can look at your spending and decide, what is it that is really important to me? Are these streaming platforms, are all of these 5 streaming platforms really important to me? No. So cutting some of those out, like I did, I actually got rid of Audible. I was paying about, I think it's maybe $15.95 for a month for Audible. Let me tell you, I've got so many books in my Audible library that I have never even listened to. And I realized that was an easy thing that I could cut. So I cut that. I actually cut a YouTube service that I was using called TubeBuddy, TUBE. Let me tell you, TubeBuddy was $50 a month. That's a lot of money. That's $600 a year. Is that 600? Yeah, that's 600. I had to do the math real quick. That's $600 a year that I was spending on TubeBuddy. Now, it is a free service, but if you pay the $50 a month, you get extra premium features. And I wasn't even using these features, but every month I allowed them to take $50, another $50. And I kept telling myself, oh, I'll use those premium features soon. I'll get time to sit down and actually figure out like what the benefit is. And I paid for this for months, probably a good year. And I say that's $600 that I wasted. That $600 could have gone into my kids' accounts for college. I could have bought some stocks. I could have invested it in my retirement account. I could have done things with that money, and I didn't do it. So by creating this spending plan it allowed me to cut out some of these things that I thought that I was using, that I wasn't using. I was paying for Weight Watchers and I wasn't even using it. At one point I did use it, and it was one of those services that I just kept because I'm like, well, I should use it. Okay, well, let me just log in today and put in my breakfast, and then I'd put 2 meals and then not use it. Well, that was $23 a month. So all of these things that I was paying for, I wasn't using all of them. So by creating a spending plan, it made me look at each of these line items and decide, is this really worth me paying for? And if it's not, let's get rid of it. Let's create some extra money here. And it doesn't have to feel like I'm deprived. It just means I'm mindful. So I had to change my way of thinking about a spending plan so that it wasn't about being restricted, but just being more intentional with where that money was going. And then week 4, we actually created a money map. And this was a visual representation that Krista had put together so that we could see on paper a visual representation of where the money is going, what's flowing in this way, what's going out, and figuring out, okay, if we have these ratios of, let's say you have $1,000 coming in. Well, 50% of that should be going, this is how Krista explained, 50% of that should be going towards your needs. 30% should be going towards your wants, and the other 20% should be going towards your savings. So $500 that is going to come right out into your checking, but then you've got 30% that's going to your wants, right? Your vacations, your clothing. And for me, I put food in the wants because, I mean, food is definitely a need, but I kind of look at it as like, it's such a variable that it's something that doesn't, it doesn't cost the same every single month. It's going to fluctuate. So I kind of put that in my wants and trying to figure out what accounts do you really need? Maybe you want to have a separate account for all your fixed expenses, your mortgage and, the gas that you pay, things that might generally be about the same cost every single month. You want to have one account for those. But where are you going to put your emergency fund? Where are you going to put your fun money, your play money that you allot to yourself every single month? Don't keep that in with your checking account. So these are some of the things that we uncovered in week 4, but we also talked about investing. And I'll tell you, Krista and I thought that we only needed about like an hour to talk about investing, but it turned into 2 hours. And then she and I realized, wait a minute, we actually need probably 3 hours for this. And so we decided, instead of just cutting this challenge at week 4, actually it's technically week 5, because remember the first week was the meet and greet, but week 4, technically, I guess, we decided that next week, which is our final week, we're going to actually show people how to open an account. We talked about that. How do you open up different investing accounts? What are the different investing accounts? And how do you open them up? Well, we didn't actually cover how to open them up. So for next week, which is our final week of this challenge, we're going to actually do a demonstration and show how easy it is to open these accounts. And I'm here to tell you, most of these investment accounts, especially if you go with Fidelity, and there's different places that you can invest, that you can open up, like an IRA, individual retirement account, or a Roth IRA, ROTH. Most of these Roth and IRAs, traditional IRAs, you open the account and you don't even have to fund it right away. That means you can open the account and maybe 2 weeks from now when you get your paycheck, that's when you're going to have money to fund it. So when she and I were discussing kind of how the challenge was going for week 4, we decided we really wanted to kind of close that loop. We brought people in to look at their finances, and our goal is to get them to that point where they understand more about investing and they've actually opened up that investing account. And all of that money that they had cut by cutting, let's say, their streaming platforms, cutting Audible, maybe instead of spending $500 a month on eating out, maybe they're spending $200. So that money that they've repurposed and taken from things that they had cut or cut back on, take those funds and actually put it into an investment account. So that's what we're doing next week. And we're hoping that people during this time will have taken the really important step to open that account. So if you are somebody who participated in the challenge, I'm going to tell you, have that account open. Figure out where you want to open it. We always recommend Fidelity because it's just, a really easy place to open an account. It takes literally less than 5 minutes to open an account. And come to the next, I was going to say Google Hangout, which is so old fashioned. Come to the next Zoom and be prepared to say, hey, guess what I did? I opened an account. But if you haven't been in the challenge, I'm still going to invite you to go to fidelity.com. You can actually go to Charles Schwab, or you can go to what's the other place that we had mentioned? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but Fidelity is a really good one to get started with. Go to Fidelity, open up an IRA, a traditional IRA, open up a Roth IRA. And I won't get into the difference between those because that's why you should do the challenge. So if you want to do the challenge for the next round, or maybe you want to do a self-paced challenge, you can go to thriftiving.com/money, put your name and your email there. We will email you and give you a link to sign up for this. It's only $20. We might change the price, but for the most part, it was $20. And you can do this self-paced course and learn everything you need to that I've just been telling you about that we've been doing for the last 5 weeks of this challenge. But your money is so important. And it really does give you that freedom to make decisions about what you do with your time and having that security. Okay, now here are some of the things that I want to share with you that were most surprising to me. There were a lot of things that were surprising to me in this challenge, honestly, but I just wrote down a few and I wanted to share those with you. One of the things that was so surprising to me in this challenge, as I looked back at the money that I'd spent, was for 2022, I bought things that I hadn't even used yet. This is not a foreign concept. When you think about clothing, right? How many pieces of clothing have you bought that's still in your closet with tags on it? I mean, we know that it's wasteful, right? For me, I don't really buy clothes that I haven't used yet for the most part. I mean, there are some things that I did buy in 2022 that I have not worn yet. However, things like nail polish, I would go to Amazon and buy some gel, the kind of polish that you have to cure with a UV light. I like that kind, like the gel soak-off polish. I would go and actually buy 3 gel nail polishes and only use one of them because you only got 10 fingers. And you're not going to wear like each color on each finger. I mean, come on. And I look back over some of these polishes that I bought and I hadn't even used 2 of the polishes that I bought. How much money was that? Right? So each polish was probably $15. And I had spent $45 on nail polish because I wanted my nails to look great. And let me tell you, I have these really brittle nails. I don't care what I do. They always break off. It must be something in my DNA. I just cannot for the life of me grow nails and just keep them nice and long and hard. I just can't. And so putting the gel polish on really helps to kind of strengthen them up a little bit. And I would go and just buy 3 colors because I couldn't figure out which colors I wanted. So I'm going to get all 3. And then looking through my polishes, I see 2 or 3 colors that I've never worn. Why did I buy that many? That's wasteful. I bought things that I would be looking in my garage and I bought things like crafting materials that I'd never used. How many times have you been to a fabric store? Or maybe you like to do knitting or crocheting or whatever. How many times have you bought skeins of yarn or yards of fabric that are just sitting there? Paint, maybe paint samples. You didn't know what paint you wanted, so you bought 5 samples of paint and you ended up maybe choosing one. Maybe you didn't even choose any of them. And that was $5 per sample. And that was $25 on samples that you spent that you never used. I have so many things that I've purchased that I've never used. And I feel like for 2023, I literally want to just use everything that I purchased in 2022 and not buy anything new. I don't want to go and buy new clothes if I haven't even worn the clothes that I bought last year. I don't want to go and buy new polish because I want a specific color. I want to use the stuff that I already purchased so that I at least feel that I didn't completely waste an entire year of purchase, of consumerism. And, some of the things that I purchased, they were, and we all know this, they were split decision purchases. Maybe it was 11 o'clock at night and I see something on Instagram and I'm like, oh, that looks great. Now, maybe I don't click on that link. Maybe I go to Amazon and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to buy it here. And then next thing you know, $47 that you just paid for something. And when it comes, you don't even remember what it is that you ordered. I mean, that is a problem. That is a problem to me. That is somebody who just thinks just because they have the money that they can spend it. And I think that is where I started. I started on that road probably early in 2022, and I just continued down that road until this challenge just was like a huge stop sign in the middle of the road that just said, Serena, stop. Like literally stop spending. And here's a story that I told myself about myself. I said to myself, well, Serena, you're a pretty thrifty person. You don't spend $500 on purses. You don't go and buy like $5,000 sofas every year. Like, you're not buying expensive shoes. You're pretty thrifty. And this is the message that I was telling myself. But when I looked back, I realized, Serena, you completely missed the mark on who you are as a person. You are someone who likes to save money. You are someone who loves to like look at that receipt. Oh, how much money did I spend? Oh, I saved this. Like that is me. That's always been me. But the minute I started making a little bit of money with thrift diving and the money was coming in, I thought, well, as long as I pay my credit card off every month, it's okay. I'll go into the grocery store and whatever it is that I want, I put it in the cart. And let's say it comes to $280. Okay, well, you do that every single week or maybe multiple times a week in different stores. And by the end of the month, you've got a $3,000 credit card because of the things that you purchased. You bought food or the kids needed shoes. Now, of course, the kids do need shoes. I don't spoil the kids with clothing and things like that. But all of these things add up. And just because you can pay that $3,000 credit card bill at the end of the month, does it mean you should? Does it mean you needed to spend $3,000? Maybe you really only needed to spend $1,500. You didn't have to spend the whole $3,000. So my advice for you is as you're going about, your 2023, be mindful of where you're spending your money. Save your receipts. Track what you're spending. I actually have a little notebook. I'm looking at it right now. I went to the dollar store and I have this little notebook that has, it can fit in my purse. It has little sections here. And I've got my section with my fixed expenses and then my groceries and eating out. And because I know that I'm going to write that down at the end of the day, I'm less likely to splurge on things that I didn't plan to buy this when I go into the store. And here's a little tip. Here's something that I've started doing. When I go into a store, yes, you should take a shopping list. That does help with the splurge purchases. But for the most part, I'm just very mindful now of what I'm putting in my cart. And there's times when I might put something in my cart. Maybe I don't know, maybe I wanted to buy, let's say frozen pizza. I'm just going to put it out there. Okay. And I put 4 pizzas in there because I have 3 boys and a husband. So that's a lot of food. Well, sometimes what I do is instead of buying 4 pizzas, I say, do I really need 4? Let me just put 1 back. I don't think we need. And that's $8 that I saved. Guess what I do? At that very moment, I will open up my app for my banking and I will literally transfer that $8 into my checking account. So anytime I choose not to buy something, I immediately save the money and transfer it into my savings. I can't tell you how much, like in the last 5 weeks, I can't tell you how much I've saved just by doing that. And I'll tell you a funny story. Recently, I told you I got back from the National Hardware Show in Vegas. And there was one particular night where I was really, really thirsty and I didn't have any water. So I went down into the lobby of the hotel and there was a convenience store there and I didn't even pay any attention to how much the water cost. I just went and got a bottle of water. It wasn't the small one, but it was like the next size up. And as I was about to put my card in, I did put my card in, but for some reason it wasn't reading properly. And she's like, oh, $7. I said, $7? What? Let me tell you, honey, I took that credit card out so quick and I hit cancel. I said, oh, no. I'm going to go put this back. I took my phone out and I transferred that $7 to my savings account right at that moment. I took myself up on the second floor to the bar where the casino was, and I asked the bartender, "Can I get 2 cups of water, ice water, please?" He gave it to me, and I went back to my room and I saved $7 on a bottle of water. That's the kind of stuff that I'm doing. Like, that's the kind of stuff that is like near and dear to my heart. Like, that is the Serena that I know. And I think I lost myself a little bit in 2022. I probably was pacifying myself a little bit in 2022 as well. And, here's what I think. I don't know if there's any science or research behind this, but if you remember, I was really going very strong with exercising, losing weight, maintaining the weight loss that I'd had. And I was a little strict with that in 2022. I'm still strict with it now, but I was a little strict with that in 2022. And I think, this is my opinion, but it could be true. I think that when you start tightening yourself up in one area, it tends to spill over into other areas. So like, for example, if you're an alcoholic, right? And you're a recovering alcoholic and you're doing really well with that, you're going to AA. It's not uncommon, from what I know, don't quote me on this, it's not uncommon for people to then start having, like, let's say, a gambling problem, or maybe they're acting out in other ways, or maybe they start eating more, because it's almost like I don't want to say cure, because you don't cure yourself from addiction, but it's almost like you've tightened up in one area, but then it just what's the word? Transposes? Is that even a word? You know what I'm saying? It transforms itself into another way that you just start like frivolously. So I feel like that maybe that's what was happening. I wasn't eating a lot. I was still exercising. So I feel like maybe it was starting to come out in other ways with me just spending. And I don't know. There's no easy answer. I think you just have to be aware of your behavior and taking a good reflection of, okay, where am I at right now? Like, what am I doing? Does this make sense? Will give you a good reading of whether what you're doing is making sense. And I realized what I was doing in 2022 was not making sense. So this Money Makeover Challenge has been super instrumental for me in being able to curb that spending. And you might be wondering, okay, well, Serena, now that you're curbing your spending, are you now eating a lot more? Actually, no. That's the amazing thing. In the last, I would say probably 5 weeks, about the same, early January, I really decided that I needed to cut sugar out of my diet. And I'm not completely sugar free, but I'm not snacking. So I don't eat chips. I don't eat candy bars. I don't put any sugar in my oatmeal in the morning. I'll do bananas with some peanut butter I think it has like only 2 grams of sugar per serving versus the 5 grams of sugar that I was putting. Even the sugar substitute, I don't even want to taste sweet stuff, because if I do, I'm going to start craving it. And so what's amazing is when you start cutting that stuff out of your life, your body stops craving it. And I think the same is true for spending, right? When you stop just spending, you stop craving the spending habit. You don't want to do it anymore. You actually look forward to saving. You look for ways to save more money, right? Like now when I go into a store, it's almost like a rule that I created for myself that, okay, I've got 10 things. Can I find one thing to put back? And how much is that thing? Because whatever that thing is, I'm going to transfer that money to my savings. I'll tell you, I have probably about $1,500 in this account now that I have created, and it's called my Things I Canceled Fund. So yeah, it's literally called Things I Canceled Fund. So anytime I cancel something, it goes right into that account. If I even think about buying something and it goes into my little online shopping cart, which I'm less inclined to do that now, but if it even like remotely hits my cart, I think, girl, put it back, delete that cart and transfer that money. And for me, it feels good to transfer it and to deny myself, I really don't need that. And later, if I decide that I want it, okay, then maybe I'll purchase it. But I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to make that splurge purchase. And just because it's on sale, or because it's at the thrift store and I'm getting a good discount for it, doesn't mean I have to purchase it. So that's kind of how things have been going for me. And, this has been an amazing, amazing challenge that Krista and I have put together. And another thing that was surprising, I will tell you, is we've been calling it a challenge, and it is a challenge, but it's really a course. Like Krista and I created this course. She provided the content. I created the structure. I brought the people. And together we were able to create something that I think is going to be transforming lives. So to me, that feels really good because this is something that I've been struggling with for a long time. I've been wanting to put together a power tools course. I mean, it's been, the last year, and I still hadn't moved on it. Well, as the challenge was winding down, I said to Krista, we created a course. I mean, we called it a challenge, but we created a course. Now we can take this structure and literally offer any course that we want to, any challenge that we want to, that's going to bring value to people's lives. And I know that power tools and learning how to use power tools and learning how to paint furniture and repurpose furniture, these are all things that would bring value to people's lives, especially their DIY creative life. And we did it. We created this challenge. We created a course. So now I actually feel much more confident to be able to know exactly what I need to do in order to show up for you, in order to offer this power tools course. So I'm actually literally working on putting together the structure of the emails that have to go out and figuring out, what I need to say in the emails, putting together the sales page. And this is the thing that I want to offer to you, is being able to come every single week with me, for let's say 6 weeks and do a power tools course. But I don't like the word course. I like challenge. We're going to do a power tools challenge. I'm going to challenge you to pick up a power tool and get started. So that's what it's going to be, a power tools challenge. If you're interested in that, you can go to thriftdiving.com/tools. I think that's what it is, tools. And you'll see the link down below in the description. That's where you can sign up for the wait list. There are, I think, probably about 130 people on that list already that said they're interested. But now that I know the formula for putting together this challenge, it's not daunting to me. So I feel like I can move forward and be able to give you value, showing up every week on Zoom and really walking you through how to use the most common power tools that you should have in your toolbox. So that's coming soon. So there's so many great things that came about with this challenge, this Money Makeover challenge. And it's really been a great way to start off the year. And if you remember from a previous episode, I was sharing with you that my keywords for 2023 are 3 of them. There's connection, flow, and simplicity. And I feel like I have been living these 3. And this year has just been off to a great start, right? The connection that this challenge brought to thrift diving, to me, to every one of you, feels really, really good. And even just connecting with friends on a personal level, people that I hadn't seen for several years. One woman I met with last week, I hadn't seen her in like 13 years, one of my old coworkers. We got together and we chatted for like 3 hours. It was fantastic. I had such a great time. So that connection, I want to continue building that. And especially with you, that's why I'm really looking forward to this Power Tools Challenge, because I want to show up every week with you and show you how to use Power Tools and give you the information that you need in order to move forward this year and being able to create the projects that you want to create. So connection has been amazing so far this year. Flow is great because flow is that thing that you get into and you lose yourself and you almost forget like what time it is. That is what you should be spending your time on. Those things that make you feel alive and you're so invested in it that heaven forbid somebody should even like call you because you're like, oh my gosh, somebody's interrupting me. Like I'm enjoying this so much. I don't even care what time it is. I just want to focus on this thing. And I've been doing that. Like the challenge, of course, has been flow. Last night, I'll tell you, for probably about 2.5 hours, I worked on my blog. And when I say worked on my blog, I mean the actual prettiness of it, the functionality of it, the pictures that you see when you go to thriftdiving.com. And about a year ago, I had an IT person give me a new theme of thrift diving. But there were some kinks, some pictures needed updating. And so they did the main work, but I needed to go and kind of tidy it up. It had been a year. Let me tell you, it wasn't looking bad, but it just needed some cleaning up. And it was just one of those things that had been weighing on me like, Serena, you got to do this. So last night I did it and I was so into flow. I was enjoying myself. I was like, ooh, this reminds me of when I first got started blogging. And you're poking around trying to find the best picture for this category and how's this going to look? It was so much fun. It was so much fun. It felt like I was reconnecting with the roots of how I got started in blogging. And it got to the point where I had to stop and like go put my kids to bed. Thankfully, I got into the end of that first page of the blog and felt like, okay, I made enough progress. I can continue tomorrow. But I was in flow. I was enjoying what I was doing. When's the last time you were in flow? Think about that time. Have you decided to like continue doing that thing that put you in flow? And if you haven't, I'm going to invite you to do it. Find those things that you just lose yourself in. And it makes life feel so much more exciting. You look forward to that thing. It makes you feel alive. I was so proud of myself when I was done. I was like, oh my gosh, I just spent all that time on my blog. Go Serena. So I'm going to invite you to find those activities that put you into flow. And simplicity, I'm still thinking about how I'm operationalizing that for this year. I'm not sure how I'm making life more simple, but sometimes I try to think like, okay, Serena, you're not being, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe you need to be more clear with your communications, right? Like you're not explaining things, or you're trying to like not hurt someone's feelings, or you're not being 100% with them. You just need to, say things as you mean them and just be simple. So I'm trying to put that into practice, but I really feel like connection and flow are the two words that I've been really focused on for these, the last month and a half of this year. And it's been great. And I really think this challenge, this Money Makeover challenge, has really helped to foster those things. And I'm going to invite you to sign up for this challenge. We might be doing another live version. I'm not sure yet, but I know that we will have a self-paced challenge. So all the recordings that we did live with this group of 16, we're probably going to be rolling that out to the people on the wait list. So if you want to be a part of this challenge and go back and be able to watch those replays and get access to all the resources, we put together like a lot of worksheets, and we did it like in Excel, we did it in a PDF, like all these things are available for you so that you can get control of your finances and really get into being more intentional about where your money goes, and also learning about investing. If you're somebody that doesn't know anything about investing, you don't even know the difference between like, a stock or a bond, or you've heard of stocks, but you don't really know what they are, then this challenge is for you. This will help move you in the right direction. And I put my stamp of approval on it. But you can go to thriftiving.com/money and sign up for the wait list there. All right. I know I've been talking a long time. This is just a topic that just feels, I could talk about it all day. I'm just really happy. And I don't know if you can tell, but I just feel this year is just off to a good start. And I want to continue to build those connections and to get into flow. And I'm going to invite you to build your own connections. Reach out to people that you haven't seen for a long time and make those connections. Join some challenges like the Money Makeover Challenge, or join the Power Tools Challenge and show up every week and connect with other people. I think that's what makes us human. That's what makes us feel alive and warm and cuddly inside, is when we connect with other people. And I just feel like there's so many things in life that are being stripped away of personality and humanity. Okay, I'm going to try not to make this too long, but if you've been paying attention, and if you haven't, this is going to completely go over your head, but there's something that's been going on called Chat GPT. And it's basically artificial intelligence. People have been going to this website. It's called openai.com. I think Microsoft owns it, or they had a hand in the development of it. And it's artificial intelligence. It's kind of like Google, but it's much different. And I won't get into all the differences between it. But what I'm saying is that, we're so computer based now, right? Like we're not talking to people. We're not interacting with people. We're going to grocery stores, going through self-checkouts, not even smiling at people as they're, handing us our change back, or, well, most people aren't paying with cash, but, handing our receipts to us. We're becoming so, like, I don't even know, like robots. We can just go into public and not even talk to anybody. And with this whole chat GPT, artificial intelligence, I feel like it's just one other way for us to find what we're looking for and not even have to interact with people. I don't know. But I feel like we need that connection. We need that connection to other people. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us happy. And I could go on and on and on about this, but we need that human connection. So I'm going to invite you this week to reach out to someone that maybe you haven't seen in a long time, or maybe join a challenge, something that meets every week live so that you're with other people and you're talking to people in a community. You're seeing people's faces, and just connect. Just connect with people. Call a friend or a family member you haven't talked to in a long time and say, hey, I know we've been meaning to get together. Let's get together next Wednesday at 1:00. What do you think? And just focus on being connected with that person and enjoy that. And that's what I have for you this week. Hopefully this isn't too long. I don't even know how long it is. I just talk, and whatever comes out of my mouth, I record. Anyway, come back next week. I don't know what we're going to be talking about, but whatever it is, you can guarantee that I'm going to show up. I'm going to be here for you. And I love talking to you every single week. And I am so thankful that you show up every week and that you get value from, the crazy thoughts that go through my head that nobody else will listen to in my real life. So that's why I get to connect with you. All right. I will see you next episode.
Gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We gonna make it look fly with some DIY. We gonna make it look fly with some DIY. Uh-oh. Thrift diving.